I was called a whore because I lost my virginity and entitled mom couldn't handle it. I got slut-shamed and made to feel like trash by Mormon fiance's mom. It's important to note that I'm 30 now, so this happened when I was still in high school. So I met this guy when I was 16, and we started dating. Fast forward 2 years and we are both out of high school and engaged. Looking back on it, an 18-year-old has no business being engaged. Anyway, my then fiancé had been raised Mormon, and wanted me to convert to the religion as that was what is expected by me and everyone in his big Mormon family. So I went through all the lessons, and got baptized in the church. That part is important. His family was Air Force and so they moved around a lot, so shortly after he proposed his family moved to Colorado, so the relationship became long distance. That summer when he came to visit, things got hot and heavy and we ended up losing our virginity to each other. I had been raised to save myself for marriage and figured since I was engaged to this guy, who at the time was the love of my life, it was basically the same thing. Big mistake. So a few days later, he gets typical Mormon guilt and decides to tell both his parents and his bishop at church. Next thing I know, my mom gets a call from fiance's mother telling her that I am no longer welcome at their home. When my mom asked why, she was told that Jezebels and harlots aren't welcome in their house of the Lord, because my son would have never been tempted or agreed to any of this if your daughter wasn't such a temptress. At this point my mom goes off on her, telling her that she hates to break it to her, but it takes two to tango and she might want to have a conversation with her son as he was more than capable of making that decision on his own as we are both 18. His mother then hangs up in my mom's face and for the next 2 weeks, proceeds to make a point to call our house at least twice a day, leaving messages on our answering machine about how much of a slut I am, how God hates me and I should be ashamed of myself. At this point, I honestly had no experience in handling any of this and would be reduced to tears on the daily. From a religious perspective, I understand the value of chastity before marriage, but when you resort to acts of harassment and slander is beyond my comprehension even to this day. You might be asking what consequences befell my fiancé during all of this. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He told his parents and they forgave him and told him that he was a victim and not responsible. His bishop, the Mormon equivalent of a pastor, told him to ask God for forgiveness and read his scriptures daily. To make matters worse, his mother decides to make a phone call to the bishop at my church and tell him everything that happened. Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled into his office and told that my sin was second only to murder and that God and His grace have abandoned me. I was beside myself in tears. Furthermore, I was told that I was no longer allowed to teach Sunday school, and I wasn't permitted to sit with anyone during the sermon. That's right, I was made to sit by myself and separate from everyone just to drive the point home that I wasn't worthy to sit with everyone else. The whole experience was absolutely horrific and caused me a lot of trauma that I had to work through as a result. His mother still maintains to this day that I am the worst person on the face of the planet and that her son is a saint. Needless to say, we broke off our engagement and went our separate ways. Update on aftermath: after I stopped going to sacrament or the ward in general, the Mormon missionaries would routinely sit outside my house waiting for either me or my mom to get home. When I moved to a new city, they continued to sit outside my mom's house to ask me where I was. Somehow they found out where I had moved, transferred my records to that ward, and the harassment continued. It took 5 years and a cease and desist letter from a lawyer to get them to leave me alone and remove my name from church records. I'm not religious at all anymore. You don't have to have religion to be a good person, and truth be told, those that claim religion tend to be the worst garbage people I've ever met. They hide behind theology as a justification for treating people like shit. So yeah, after going to massive amounts of therapy to reprogram my brain out of thinking I was nothing but trash, I left all organized religion and never looked back. Since then, now at 30, I have spent every day since then rebuilding everything that he broke. And I refuse to ever be treated like that by anyone ever again.